a lot of you guys want the keys to the castle, but you don't fucking deserve them. Like everyone's trying to build a copy and paste business, and that will always just be a copy and paste business. You don't want a copy and paste business. You want an original.
Hey guys,
All
and
right.
welcome back to another episode of the Truth Talk podcast. Today I'm here with Luke. Do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you?
Absolutely. What's up? Thanks for having me, Alex. I appreciate it. My name is Luke Del Priori. I'm a 19-year-old entrepreneur. I own a couple businesses. My primary business is called Del Priori Hospitality. It's a hospitality advertising agency. We work with, a bunch of different private event venues, wedding venues, and high-end restaurants. And we help them generate, more revenue through digital marketing. So we help them advertise their business on Google, Facebook, and Instagram to target people that would shop with their business. We run a pretty big team, and my secondary business is obviously my personal brand. I have a coaching and a program, which is basically like a six-figure accelerator that's releasing pretty soon. Basically, just showing people how to do exactly what we do. So yeah, my brother and I are partners, and those are our businesses.
That's awesome. And I mean, for those viewers that don't know Luke, he's made close to seven figures, and you're only 19, right? You said?
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's amazing. And I kind of just wanted to ask you, kind of how did this all start? Like, I mean, everyone has a story, right? Kind of what's your story?
Yeah. So, I guess probably the pretty traditional entrepreneurial story. So, I had a regular job when I was about 15, 16 years old. I worked in a restaurant called Lemon in New Jersey, and I was just a server. I made $12 an hour cash, no tips. And that was 15, 16 years old. I was playing baseball at the time, so that was just like for side money. And yeah, that was just kind of what I did. I went back to school for my senior year. And kind of midway throughout the year, I figured out, I was never always such a good student. And I knew that, that was me at heart, but, I never came to terms with it. My parents always pushed me to try hard in school, become a nutritionist, become an attorney, like do something with your life. And, I guess that's all I thought about, right? I thought, going to school and getting good grades and eventually getting a good job was it's the right thing to do, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes you don't open your eyes to some of the opportunity that's out here in this market. So I said, all right, that's what I'm going to do. Went to school, and in a month and a half, I dropped out. So senior year, I ended up dropping out of high school. I said, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I don't want to disappoint you guys, but this is just not for me. And that was at 16 years old. So as soon as I came back to school, I dropped out.
At 16, you said?
Yeah, I was a senior when I was 16 because I essentially skipped a grade when I was younger.
Oh, I see. And did
So
you have this business sort of planned out, or was it kind of just like, this isn't for me, I'm gonna see if something is out there? Or
no, bro, I quit school to work full time. So what I did as soon as I quit school is I started working two jobs. So I quit baseball because I knew, hey, listen, I'm not getting up there in age, but I'm getting to a point where young adulthood is coming around. I know I'm probably not going to end up going to the MLB. So I need to
Mhm.
figure out a way to generate income so I can live a half decent life.
Yeah.
Right. So I decided, hey, I'm going to pick up two jobs. I got a job in a breakfast restaurant, and I supplemented that with a job in an ice cream shop. So as soon as I would finish a job in the breakfast restaurant, I would go right to the job in the ice cream store. And I would just do double shifts every day, every day, every day, every day, 12, 13 hours a day, trying to save as much money as I possibly could. And I did that for a few months. My brother did the same thing. And the really our epiphany and the beautiful thing about, how my brother and I ended up partnering up is we got the same jobs. So he was still in
Mhm.
college. He was at a school called Brookdale here in New Jersey. And I told him, I'm like, bro, start picking up some more hours at work so we could save more money eventually if we want to start some kind of business. Right. At that
Yeah.
time, I had an idea. I was like, you know what? What if we started a podcast? I was like, I know a lot of girls, and maybe we could interview them and have conversations with them, and pick their brain and try to blow up on the internet and just say viral shit. And that's literally what happened. If you scroll back on my TikTok page, I have about 250,000 followers still. It's a dead account now, but I took in like 12 million views in a week just
Wow.
having girls on a podcast and just saying vulgar stuff and making jokes and this, that,
Mhm.
and the other. But I came to, realize pretty soon, generating views, unless you have a product, some kind of digital product or service to sell, doesn't necessarily make you any money. So I had
Mhm.
this audience, but I didn't have any money. And that ended up being an issue. I thought that, hey, if I blow up, I'll just somehow make money.
Yeah.
And, and figure out as that young entrepreneur, that's not the case. So I stopped with the podcast because I'm like, listen, we have followers, but we don't have any friggin' money. We got to work up like a real business plan. So I sat down with my brother one day after a day of work, because at this time we're working and we're doing the podcast. Like we are just running ourselves into the ground 15, 16 hours a day. All we're doing is hustling. And don't get me wrong, we still work those kind of hours now, but it was just months on end that we were doing this. So I was like, you know what? We need to work up a real business plan to make money if we're ever going to be able to escape this job.
Mhm.
And we came up with the business plan of, what if we took all these skills that we learned from the podcast, which is taking pictures, shooting videos, and going viral online? And what if we sold local businesses on the value of this for them to get more customers? Because here's the thing, we were able to get views, but we had nothing to sell. But if I'm
Mhm.
able to get a restaurant views, they have food to sell, right?
Yeah.
So my whole thing was I could help you go viral so you could get more customers. So what we did was I learned the skill of sales, and I would go out and I would pitch local businesses here in New Jersey on me taking pictures and shooting videos for those businesses, editing them together, and then posting them on their Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for them. And that business was basically an instant success. Obviously, there was some trial and tribulation early on, but my brother and I busted our ass, and we were able to take that business from zero to $25,000 a month in cash collected in
Wow.
under 3 months. And that
That's
was just
awesome.
yeah, that was just straight hustle, because I was a salesperson and Dara was the video guy. So we were able to scale quick because we had, the partnership. And Dara's my brother who I'm talking about. And we still
Okay.
work together.
And your brother's the same age as you, or
My brother's 20. He's 20. So
20? Okay.
he's a year and a
Beautiful.
half older than me.
And as for the business, right? You guys were doing what exactly for these places? Were you doing like Facebook ads, or what was it that you were running?
No, so at that point it was just content creation.
Content? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't even phase into any of the media buying or SEO type of work that we do now. It was literally just, I'm going to take pictures, I'm going to shoot videos, I'm going to edit them together, and I'm going to post them for you.
And
That was our whole value prop.
and so you guys would just walk up to these businesses, or how did you like reach out through Instagram, or how was the outreach aspect of it?
So, I mean, like every new startup agency owner, we did all the research we could. Should we do
Mm.
Instagram DM cold outreach? Should we do, should we get a LinkedIn scraper? Should we cold call? Should we go door to door? Some of the main things that I did were just cold calls and door to door.
Mm.
As a new salesperson, I didn't want to have any, how can I say it? I didn't want to have any leverage that I didn't deserve, is the best way that I can describe it. Is I wanted to become a very raw in the field salesperson, because I knew that if I was ever going to establish a big company, I was going to have to deal with guys that were going to ask me really hard questions, and I needed to get good at selling live. And that's why, I didn't want to do so much of the DM stuff that, we have to leverage now today in our current agency.
Yeah.
I wanted to become, more of a raw salesperson, and that's what I did for about a year.
That's interesting because when I first started, Instagram DMs was the thing, right? Outreaching through Instagram and kind of reaching out to people, sending them maybe a video message over Instagram or something like that. And
Yeah.
as like over time, I wanted to get better sort of at sales and like you're saying, right? And I started doing cold calls. And
Yep.
cold calls for me like really helped with this sort of interaction, right? Sort of not being awkward and kind of just being able to like speak to people without, that sort of pressure that, almost like the nerves that you have sometimes when you talk to people.
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
I kind of struggle with that a little bit, especially like I wouldn't want to cold call someone if I was with someone else or like cold call in public or anything like that, right? But like
Mhm.
I've sort of grown into that role of like, okay, this is kind of if I want to be successful, I'm gonna have to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and so
And yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And for me, now, like at this phase, do I still make my cold calls? Yeah. But for me, it's more of I've taken kind of a leader role in the company, where for me, it's all about training salespeople and getting them good at, at sales. Because at the end of the day, if you want leverage in a business and if you really want to scale and grow, you need people. So our sales team is not just me, but I have, a lot of close friends of mine that work with us directly in sales. And including myself, our sales team is 5 guys. So I'm overseeing the guys taking their Zooms, making their calls, making sure that their follow up is on point. Because if we're going to scale a real organization, this is what we have to do. And obviously, I'm still young. We're still, going through all the growing pains that a business would have
Yeah.
and will have. But we're working out all these kinks now early so that, things are nice and smooth in the future.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I know managing a team, right? I mean, I sort of manage a team of setters, as I was saying, with DMs and everything. But how do you manage a team? Like how in your business, is it something that you struggle with? Or at first, did you struggle with, or have you grown into it? How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that all entrepreneurs struggle with. I mean, I definitely still juggle with it, trying to manage, um, multiple systems. Because at the end of the day, my whole goal is to build out systems because I could only do so much. I only have so many hours in a day. And my goal is to make as much money as I possibly can for the amount of time that I have in a day. So trying to juggle what tasks I'm going to do with my time is something that I always battle with. And that's where getting into a position of scale is, I'm trying to build out automation. Like if you look at my personal brand and all the content that I have right now, I mean, I don't touch any of it. Like I have a videographer that comes in that shoots all my content, that sends all my content to my editing team. My editing team sends it to my thumbnail guy who creates my thumbnails. Then all that content gets sent out to my guy who schedules my content and distributes it. So I don't even look at it because I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
I'll exchange the $2,000 a month that I need to pay for all that to be done for me for the sake of building a big brand because I know if I free up my time and I have the 90 hours, a week that I work, I can make way more money than I could, in teaching my sales team to acquire more revenue than I could, doing all that shit by myself.
Yeah, no, man, that sounds great. Automating all that. I hate having to sit down and edit all the videos and make all the thumbnails and then, but I mean, it's really interesting because a lot of people struggle with that. What do I outsource? What do I not outsource, right? And especially when you're first starting out, right? You don't have the capital to do something like that, right? Go out and pay someone to do your editing, pay someone to
It
do your
sucks,
thumbnails,
bro.
right?
Listen,
Yeah.
it sucks, but that's where like that is what's going to build your character because once you get to this point, and I don't claim to be at a crazy point right now, my business does about a little over 50,000 a month currently, between my brother
That's
and I.
awesome.
I mean, I mean, listen, at a certain point, this would have sounded like, oh my God, I would have felt like Bill Gates at this point, but money's cool, man. It's not really everything. We still deal with all the same issues that we did when we didn't have a fucking penny and we didn't have a pot to piss in. So it's it is freeing in the sense of it lets you not do certain shit that you don't want to do or say you don't want to learn to do. Like a
Mhm.
goal of mine was always like, oh, I want to learn how to edit videos. But then I'm like, wait a second. If I could get them shot, edited, posted, and distributed for me with 3 clips a day plus 4 podcasts for like 2,000 a month, I'm making 2,000 a month on every client that I sign up in my agency. Why don't
Yeah.
I just focus on what I'm already good at and I'll get the people to work on that end of the business? And that's where entrepreneurship is humbling. Like we as people, I think we want to be good at everything. And there comes a point where I just acknowledge my weak points and I hire them. And now that we have the capital to do that, I have guys that handle my CRM for me. I have my brother that runs the whole back end of the business for me. So my partnerships and my leverage because of capital have allowed me to scale quicker than most people ever could. But it took a lot of convincing, right? It started with convincing my brother to quit work, then convincing him to be my partner, then convincing the first client, then convincing the second client, and then the first salesperson, and then the first media buyer. Like the whole business has just been a state of convincing. And that's what it's going to
Mhm.
be coming into the future, right?
Yeah.
So I get that growing pain, bro. And obviously I don't know at what point you're at or anyone's at that's going to be watching this podcast, but I'm telling you, the first couple years you really got to be a fucking beast and you got to focus on trying to get you got to try to get that boat rowing is really the best way that I could say it because once it's rowing, you could really smooth things out from there, but it's always going to be the hard. I'm not saying it's not still hard, but it's always going to be the hardest in the beginning because you don't have a system. Once you have a system, you can create something that's repeatable, but it's hard when you don't have that. That's where all the growing pain comes from.
So
Stuff that you don't have.
there's a couple things I want to touch on that, right? The number one thing is I feel like especially those of us who have that entrepreneurial drive, right? As you were saying, we want to be good at everything, right? We want to do the editing, we want to do the thumbnail. And
Yeah.
I think it kind of takes, setting aside your ego a little bit, right? Being
Oh
like,
yeah.
look, I'm going to pass it on to someone else that might be better than me at it, right? They're obviously going to be better than me, and it saves me time and it saves me money, right? Because you're using that time to make more money, right? And
Exactly.
then I mean that's huge, right? When it comes to business, right? Setting aside that ego. And then the next thing I
Absolutely.
kind of wanted to ask you about is, you said you started with content, right? And you
Yes, sir.
grew into something else. Can you kind of explain kind of where the business has gone from that initial, content that you were doing for
Yeah,
businesses?
absolutely. So we still have content clients. We just phased out of it to where we don't have as many currently, because our clients were asking us for other services like, hey, can you run my ads? Can you build me a website? Can you do my SEO? And things of that nature. And we've phased into that just because I plan on moving. I'm actually moving to Jersey City, right across from New York, fairly
Mm.
soon. So with the location switch, it would be hard, to have my videographers, be traveling. So I basically said, hey, at a certain point, Dario, we want to be able to have some level of leverage over other people. And this is what we did. We basically we got on a whiteboard and we said, okay, we want to build an agency. Yes. We need a niche because if you're going to go after anyone and everyone, it's going to be messy. Okay, we need a niche. We don't want to go after the niche that everyone else is going for. Like fucking everyone wants to sign a med spa.
Yeah,
Stupid.
for some reason.
Everyone's going for the same client. Okay, we want to be in a new niche. We want to go after people that are untapped. Okay, high ticket. Okay. And it takes a certain level of thinking. And this is what I really want everyone to hear. A lot of you guys want the keys to the castle, but you don't fucking deserve them. Like everyone's trying to build a copy and paste business, and that will always just be a copy and paste business.
Mm.
You don't want a copy and paste business. You want an original company. Alex Hormozy didn't copy anyone when he created Gym Launch. Okay. Jeff Bezos didn't copy anyone when he created Amazon. If you're a real innovator, you don't want to copy and paste business. Even if you want to make 10,000 a month, you don't want to copy and paste business. So you want to create something that other people don't have. So we kind of went to the drawing board and we said, okay, high ticket, let's think. What's expensive? And you just sit there and you start thinking. A gym membership? No, that's not expensive. $20 a month. Solar, everyone already has solar deals. Med spa, that's done. Cairo, that's done. And everyone's thinking in this bubble. And then one day, I had a friend tell me, yo, make sure you're not doing anything Saturday night. We have that wedding to go to. I'm like, huh, okay. So I went to the wedding. And as I'm at the wedding, I'm like, I wonder how much a wedding is. Hmm. So I start doing my research to figure out weddings in the tri-state area go up to about $100,000. And when I looked up wedding venue marketing agency and didn't find anything, I knew I struck gold, right? Because now I'm in a market that people haven't touched, or at least not a lot of people have touched yet.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, wedding venue. I think we're onto something here. How much is it to book a wedding venue? 20,000, 30,000, 40. I'm like, holy shit. So I'm starting to do my research and I'm like, wow, if we could figure out a way to help them get more bookings, we could justify a high monthly fee. Because if I'm going to get them a booking for 40K and they have good profit margins, I could
Yeah.
easily charge them 3,000 a month. That's nothing, right?
Yeah,
And then I figure
easily.
out these venues do 7 million a year, 10 million a year, 25 million a year. And I'm like, holy shit. So I look at my brother and I go, listen, the content's been great, but I think we have something that no one else has. Then I start doing my research and I figure out you could target engaged couples through Facebook and Instagram. Then I figure out that they benefit a ton from SEO. And I start building out a back end team. The editors that I had, I was like, you know what? You guys do your thing. Let's keep the business at this point. And I start hiring media buyers. Let me find media buyers online. Let me find guys that are proficient that have ran ads for wedding photographers. If you could run an ad for a wedding photographer, I know you're putting that in front of engaged couples. So
Mm.
maybe you could work with a venue. So now I'm trying to prospect the best talent to get this business afloat. I know how to sell. I'm a good salesperson. That's not an issue. I know my brother could run the back end team. I got to put this fucking system together. So we had the idea, we launched it, and definitely not an immediate success. Fuck. The first 8 months sucked, bro. Churning clients, bad results, hard to sign people up. There was a day me and my brother went for a walk because we went from doing 25K a month with content back to zero.
Wow.
Literally zero. We had, well, not zero zero. We had two clients, so we were making like 3,500 a month. And I'm looking at my brother like, dude, what happened? How the hell are we going to get out of this? And we were just thinking, and we're like, listen, if we don't give up and if we don't stop working on this project, eventually it's going to work. Like eventually, I don't care how long it fucking takes. I'm not quitting until this shit works. And when you can put yourself in that frame of mind and you can stay there, you get angry because you're like, no, this is
Yeah.
gonna work. Like this is gonna fuck. I don't care how fucking long it takes. This is gonna work. And that's where we went down the rabbit hole, kept working on improving our service delivery, creating a better back end, running better ads with a better offer, improving the click-through rate, and creating a better call to action, changing the ad creative, the ad copy, changing things around that needed to be changed, and putting systems in place to the business to really implement leverage and better results for clients. It was immediate. It was immediate. And now, here we are. The majority of our revenue that we added within the past couple months, because
Awesome.
once you have that repeatable system and a good service, your clients stay, they refer you, it's easier to get new deals. And that's what we're experiencing now. So now we're really just, for this new year, this is going to be our year of leverage and growth. We really want to hit, new heights this year. It's our primary goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the main things that I think about when it comes to business, right, is business is just problem solving, right? Pretty much if you can solve someone's problem, you'll make money, right? That's kind of how I look at it. And it's super cool that you're thinking like, look, all these people are doing this already. Look, I'm gonna do something different, right? Because that can either work or it doesn't work, right? I mean, it could go either way, right? And
Yep.
yeah, it's really cool that wedding venues. I mean, who would have thought of that, right? So now I kind of want to shift over and talk a little bit about, your personal brand and how did that like come about? Why did you want a personal brand in the first place?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in 2024, you're nothing without a personal brand in this environment. Business is more competitive than it's ever been because it's easier than it's ever been to launch a business. And if you're not online, then where are you? Right. That's where all of your customers are going to be. That's where, if someone's looking to learn from you potentially for consulting, that's where they're going to be. So if you're not putting yourself out there and showcasing, here's my skill set, here's my knowledge, here's what I do, here's what I'm about, here's what my company is about, here's our company culture, here's why we are a certain way. If you're not putting that message online and it's just your local radius that knows about you, I mean, you're extremely limited, especially with Gen Z, man. Like,
Yeah.
we're young, everyone's online, everyone's on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And if you're going to scale a big company, these are all growing markets. If you look at how many users are on Instagram yearly, it goes up. YouTube, it goes up. TikTok, it goes up. Facebook, these are growing markets. So you want to put yourself into a growing market. What am I going to do? Put myself in a newspaper? You know what I mean? Like, I need to
Yeah.
be in a growing market. So I see social media as the ultimate leverage, where right now in our company, when we reach out to business owners, we call them one on one on one on one on one. But if I make one piece of content, that's a piece of digital real estate that I can then potentially get in front of millions of people. So I can take something that I would usually have to advertise one on one and put it in front of a million potential prospects in one shot. And that's to me what the benefit and the real benefit of social media is. And I don't think people have taken enough time to even consider that.
Yeah.
I think that social media has benefits that, obviously there's negatives. You get caught up in scrolling, but if you're a creator and if you're the one that's making the content, dude, it's game over. This is the year to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with myself trying to build a personal brand. I mean, the best thing about it is, you put something out there, right? And you never know when it could blow up, right? You could just leave it there,
Yeah.
and in a month, you never know. That could have a million views. It could have nothing. You don't know, right? And I think the key with that, and I don't know if this is the same for you. I kind of want to ask you this. Do you think it's just consistency, like consistently putting something out there, or do you think it's more of like, let's put out the best piece of content that I can. I don't care if it takes 2 weeks. You know what I mean? What's your kind of take on it?
I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of consistency and quality, where people don't want to watch shitty content that has no value. Um, Especially if you're trying to advertise to people that are, looking to become more knowledgeable. So they want things that are informational, but things that are also entertaining. And that's where, I'll be honest, like my personal brand only takes me 5 to 6 hours a month. So
Wow.
it's something that would almost be criminal to not have, because I have so many people that work so hard to keep it afloat for me. Um, Obviously they're compensated to do so, but having that level of automation, it just frees up my time. I spend all my time working on my company. Eventually I'm going to
Yeah.
sell something through the personal brand. I will, no doubt. I will sell something through the personal brand, but right now you can't sell anything without an audience, right? So I need an audience first. So if I want to leverage my personal brand, I know I need 10,000 followers, 100,000 followers, a million followers. And that's just a timely process. And the more content I create and the more content I produce, the better. And that's what I'm doing right now. The highest ROI things I could do are the things that I focus on. So me sitting, in front of a camera and speaking, that gives me a high ROI because I know that gives me digital real estate. I love that. If I'm on a sales call, I have an opportunity to sign a deal for $2,000-$3,000 a month. If that client sticks around for the year, I can make 20 to 40 grand. That's a high ROI on my time. Hiring another salesperson, that's a high ROI on my time. Hiring a new employee, that gives me good returns where I feel as though it's hard to outsource that. Anything I could outsource and look at things from the owner's perspective and say, okay, here's how the machine's running. How can I make it smoother? How can I make it run better? Whatever I see and whatever deficiencies the business have, I hire because now I have the capital to do so. You know, I sit liquid probably, obviously I have my investments, but I sit liquid like $250,000 just so that I could take money whenever I need it and invest it back into the business because I see, okay, it's cash flowing X amount. How do I add an extra 10,000 a month in profit? And then I put those systems into the business to do so. And then I watch it grow. And then I do it again and again and again. And that's how we've been growing. That's how we're going to get to $250,000 a month this year.
That's amazing. And I really like how, you have this big emphasis on systems, right? Like automation. How much of this can I get away with almost, right? It's not, I don't want to say get away with, right? But how much of this can I outsource, right? How much of this is
Yeah,
worth my time, what isn't, right? Um,
absolutely.
and as a business owner, like I mentioned it earlier, right? It's kind of hard to get in that mindset, especially when you're first starting out, right? And
Mhm.
the way I don't know if you agree with this or not, but the way I like to think of it is, when you're first getting into the gym, right? First couple of days, you're gonna be sore, you're gonna be struggling, it's gonna be tough, right? But you kind of get 2 weeks, you're like, okay, I'm starting to get in the groove of this, right? A month in, you kind of built this almost this habit of going to the gym, right? And I kind of feel like it's the same for business. I don't know if that applies to you. Do you think that applies to you? Sort of that, over time I build this
Yeah.
system up and I grow it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's so many people that would look at me now and they're like, oh, he's so successful. Like that's as far along as I would want to be. And it's like, no, like, yeah, definitely not. Because there comes a point where you almost get, I don't want to say I'm crazy successful for my age. I mean, I live okay. I drive a
I would
decent
say so.
car. Yeah, I live an okay life, but it's almost like a level of torture that you put yourself through because you have to look at something that's not perfect every single day. And you have to know that you have to struggle with the fact of, okay, every day I'm going to be trying to make this thing perfect to the best of my ability. And it's never going to be there
Yeah.
because the more you scale, the more issues, right? More money, more problems. It's for real. So, the more you scale, the more issues you're going to end up running into. And you're just constantly working on that machine, bro. I still struggle with it. I wake up some days and like I could show you just so you guys know that this is legit. I could show you my schedule for tomorrow, my sales calendar that my appointment setters have gotten set up for me. Like you could see my
Wow.
calendars,
Yeah.
like my,
Booked
my
in.
calendars, my calendar's always filled, right? So, and this is the day after, right? So every day I'm sitting there and I'm on Zoom and I'm talking to business owners and I'm trying to close up deals. But I know, you know, I have to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, I'm doing this, but like, could I be doing something better?
Mm.
Do I need to be looking into, getting a better accountant so that I can save more money on my taxes? Do I need to be looking into what investment classes I could be getting myself into? Should I be investing into real estate? Is cryptocurrency a better opportunity right now? What about the stock market? Dude, I juggle with these things all the time. Or should I
Yeah.
just reinvest all my money back into my company and keep growing the business that I love and know best? There's so many things that I struggle with as an entrepreneur. And these are things that are not talked about in the entrepreneurship space because most people like me get called a fucking scammer or a guru
Yeah.
or just an online marketer, whatever you want to call me. But at the end of the day, I've intentionally documented everything from scratch. Where you could go see my track record of me completely broke on my 17th birthday with nothing to my 18th birthday when I had the business doing 20, 25K a month to now doing over 50,000 a month to whatever the end of this year is going to be, God willing. Like we have everything documented so that there's phases that people could see. Here's where I went down in revenue. Here's where I got my deals. Here's how I started. Everything's there, right? So I purposely wanted to track it because sometimes I see guys online and I'm like, oh, daddy's money, this, that. My dad's a police officer and my mom still works. So, you know, like get your facts straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how I approach those situations. But it's funny, man. When I dropped out of high school, all the same people that told me you're fucking crazy, this is a bad idea, are the same people that want to work for me now and they want to work
Yeah.
with me and they want to buy my program. And it's just funny, man. A couple of years of hard work can really set you up. But it takes the 13-hour days, 14-hour days that no one wants to do. It
Yeah.
takes, I know it sounds corny, it takes saying no to a lot of fun things, bro. I lost a good relationship because of the business. I did. Like that was one of the things that I had to live with, that I still have to live with. That's one of the things that I chose, you know. I lost good relationships with friends because of the business. And I've built different relationships and I have better friendships now currently as a result of it. But I had to sacrifice certain things for money.
Yeah.
And that's a choice that I had to make. So
And at the end of the day, it's all about kind of what you want, right? Because for someone
100%.
else, for someone else, maybe the life that you have is not something that they want. They don't want to be working those 13-hour days. They rather, go party with their friends or, do whatever it is, right? I
Bro,
guess,
it's probably not worth it for most people, to be honest. You drive a nicer car, you live in a bigger, apartment. Like for example, like we're getting a really nice waterfront apartment in Jersey City, right on the water, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Like it's beautiful. But you live in a nicer, you live in a nicer spot. You have a bigger brand. You have a nicer car. But what actually changed? Not
yeah,
much. I'm basically the same guy I was when I had no money. I just happen to have a number that's a little bit higher in a bank account.
except for
So
the people that tell you, oh, work for me or do that, right? And I
yeah,
mean, it's all about, your definition of success, right? Because I guess for you, you haven't reached success yet, right? In your mind, right? And
nowhere near. Nowhere near.
exactly,
I don't know
exactly.
where I'm going to assess that. I'm not perfect, man. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you're already successful," and I'm like, it just doesn't feel that way. There's so many things that I feel like need to be worked on. Where sometimes I'll lie to myself and be like, "Okay, but if I'm making 100,000 a month, it's $1 million a year. I'll profit 900,000. Like that's when I'll consider myself successful." And it's like I know when I hit that point, I'm just going to say, "How am I going to
More.
double this?
Yeah.
How am I going to double this thing?" It's just how I am, man. I think it's how I'm
And
always going to be.
yeah, I think that's, I've seen this like sort of, this drive that a lot of people don't have, right? It's the entrepreneurial drive. Like, how can I make it better? How can I almost a perfectionist drive, right? Where you want to be the
Yeah.
best version of yourself always, right? Constantly, improving. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I know for you the motivation is always to make it better, but would you ever like consider, once you get to a certain point, um, like branching out and trying other things and maybe trying like new challenges or something new, right? I don't know. Is that something you would consider?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. You sit there sometimes and you just think like in this life, what is there really to do? You
Mm.
work, you make money, you focus on things that you like, and you focus on your loved ones. Right. That's really all you can do. Especially, I'm going to talk about the men that are going to watch this. That's really all you can do. Yeah, you could travel and you could drink a fucking coconut on some random beach, but
Yeah.
to me, it's like, what am I gonna look? How like what would I have to do in a day to look at myself in the mirror in 30, 40 years and say, I'm proud of you, Luca. Like I'm proud of what you did. Like this is good. And for me, it's not just about what I could get from my own personal income and my own personal greed. Listen, bro, going to the club and popping a bottle and spending 10,000 in a week, I've done it. Like it's okay. It's fun, but giving people opportunity. And for example, like one of my sales guys that works with me, and I'm not gonna, be specific about like name or specific
Okay.
situation,
Okay.
but just going through a hard time in life. And on the trip, this is someone that I wanted to really uplift and help out with his own personal life. And he was like, you know what? Like, Luke, I just want to let you know, like, you've given me one of the best experiences that I've ever had in my life. And I want you to know that I'm forever grateful for our friendship. And like, I fucking love you, bro. This is more than I could have ever imagined. And, in working with you guys and things like that are what fire me up, because now when I know, like, I have people that count on me, like I have people that rely on me. I have to fucking boss up. Like I got to be a leader. I
Yeah.
have to lead them to say, yeah, this is what I'm about. This is what our company is about. Here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're chasing a certain mission. Here's how we're going to get there. Let's get on our horse. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get it done. And that's what I'm really about as, one of the owners is I don't ever put myself on a pedestal above any of the guys that I work with. I ask them all the time, how can I be better as, the owner of the company? What do you want to see me do more of? Anytime I get a free second, just to show my sales guys and my service guys how much I care about them, I'll grab the phone and I'll make a cold call. Hey, what's going on? My name's Luke. How are you doing? I'll get on the phone with them to show them this is why I want you to call a certain way. I'll show my back end guys respect and appreciation by giving them a bonus. Like, these are the things that I have to do if I want to keep the machine running. Because just as the success has came quick, it can leave me even faster. And I've already experienced it. So all the mistakes I made the first time around in building the content business and seeing the revenue tank are the things that I took into this, project and into this mission to not fuck it up a second time around. And I hope I don't. So
Yeah.
that's
No.
that's what we're focusing on now is really focusing on, being a leader, but not distancing myself from the team, where I'm building automation so that I could work closer with my team, so that I'm not stuck on a Zoom call with a business owner all day. I want to be stuck watching my sales guys all day, saying, hey, you should do this better. Here's where you need to get better here. I want to be stuck talking to my accountant, talking about the fucking Augusta rule and purchasing real estate and saving money that way. Like, those are the things I want to focus on, because I know if you look at, the ROI that I would get on my time, the highest returns are going to come directly from leading a team. It's not just up to me.
Yeah.
I gotta lead that team. I gotta be a leader. And that's how I see that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's, I don't know if it is for you, but that's definitely a mentality shift, right? From when you're first starting out, right? And you're kind of like, look, I have to do this myself. Like, I have to work, right? Those, 13-hour days, like you were saying, right? It's all me, right? Like, I got to put the work in, right? And changing to this like team sort of mentality, right? That has to be a pretty big shift. I don't know is that something that you experienced or?
Yeah, because I mean, think about this, right? How crazy of a thought is this? You might be working 80 hours. I mean, you might be working, let's just say you work 12 hours a day, right? Say you do that 6 days a week. That's 72 hours a week. But if I have 9 guys in an organization that work 8 hours a day, I could do the same output in a week, in a day, because I now have a team. So I could
Yeah.
get to my goals 7 times faster because I have 9 people on the same mission. So most people are not willing to front the capital to build something that runs itself, that's smooth, that's organized, but I am, because that nest egg of money that I made doing the content, I saved, I invested, and it's right there to invest into the business. And now obviously the monthly profits I make off the agency, I keep rolling over into building that system up.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, right? If
Sure.
you were to look at, your younger self, right? Maybe, when you're 16 or 17, right? And you're in high school and, it's not for you, right? You're not doing good in school, or maybe, it's just not for you, right? And you kind of want to start your own business. What would you tell to your younger self? Just like a bit of advice. What would you tell yourself?
Probably try harder in school, to be honest, because I had to teach myself work ethic, and that was a very painful experience. That was a year of me being completely miserable. I'll be honest with you. I thought I hated business, and I didn't hate business. I hated myself. I hated the fact that I saw myself as a lazy person, because it was something that I'd heard my whole life, and I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to own it. I didn't want to own the fact that I'd always been sloppy. I'd always delayed work that needed to be done. I'd always put, things that I knew I needed to get done, but didn't want to do on the back burner. And I wasn't happy about that. And when I saw people getting better grades and feeling as though they were smarter than me, I knew somewhere deep down that those people weren't smarter than me. I knew they just tried harder than I did. And at a certain point, it irritated me, but I also couldn't get myself to see where trying harder in math class was going to help me because I didn't even know what I wanted to do. But in that situation of not knowing this, I should have said, okay, I don't know what I want to do. I got to do something. Let me at least try. Let me at least be a good student, if nothing else, right? Because that created a very negative stigma. Anyone that I went to high school with probably still sees me as that dumb kid. That's not who I am. You sit down, you have a conversation with me, you pick my brain. I could run laps around people. You ask me anything about my company. You ask me anything about things that I'm interested in. Fine, let's talk about it. We could go all day. The second you sit me down to talk about the Pythagorean theorem, I'm going to blank because it's just not something that I ever took focus on. But now I've trained my brain to do things that I don't like doing, just the same as things that I do like doing. So I feel like I've been able to, I don't want to say automate my own brain, but I've been able to turn myself into more of a machine to where if there's something that needs to get done, I could turn off all the noise of, oh, but that's boring. I don't want to do that. That's like, what's the other option? You know what I mean? Like I'm here working. What am I going to do? Go chill in a pool? Like it's not really ideal, especially when you see your whole team is busting ass. This is where I so much prioritize who I hang out with, and who I bring into the business. If I bring people in that only want to work 6, 7 hours a day, then my baseline for effort is going to go down. But if I'm surrounded by guys that are building systems and teams 12, 13 hours a day, if I'm lazy, I'm working 10 hours a day. And most people don't work 10 hours a day. Yeah. So your baseline as a human always falls to whatever, let's just say you're naturally a lazy person. Your baseline of effort is going to be right around just under the second to last person in the group. So if you're surrounded by 10 guys that are working 12, 13 hours a day with big ass businesses, multiple 7 figures, you're unsuccessful making $1 million a year. So the people that you're around in your community is like the most valuable thing because community is everything, bro. And you come to realize as you start getting around better people, wiser people, people that have more knowledge, that have been in the game longer, you start to realize, wow, there's a lot more entrepreneurs than I realized. There's a lot more people that have a lot more money than I realized before I started a business. I used to think, I know it's going to sound cliche, but I used to think that it was like rare to make 20,000 a month. I'm like, oh my God, $250,000 a year. You're fucking rich. You're loaded. And then I speak to these venue owners that make $7-8 million a year, like clockwork. And like, these are businesses that have been around for 40, 50 years. And I'm like, I got some work to do. Yeah. So yeah, my baseline, especially talking to these older guys, like these older entrepreneurs, I'm like, fuck, bro, these guys have been in the game for such a long time. Like I don't even come close to them.
Experience almost.
Oh, it's so humbling. That's why I don't look at these e-commerce kids online that are like, oh, I made $10,000 on my dropshipping store. I'm like, bro, I don't give a fuck. Like those are peanut numbers compared to some of the guys that we work with that have real companies, hospitality groups. And that's a very humbling experience. These guys run 10, 15 restaurants. That's no joke.
Yeah, that's impressive. And I mean, I don't know, there's a ton of people that message that you just said right there, they kind of need to hear that, right? Where, I mean, even myself, like I sometimes, I'm like, why am I doing this? And at the same time, it's like at the back of my head, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Just sit down and like play video games? Like, I mean, I feel like there's better things to do than that, right? I could grow as a person.
What are you going to look back on at the end of this whole thing and say, you know what, I'm glad I did that? I don't think you're going to say, I wish I played one more video game. I wish I just played one more video game. I think you're going to be grateful for the things that you've built, for the experiences that you gave to other people. For me, it's my relationship with God. I'm trying to build that. Every Sunday I'm in church. I'm, trying to connect with God more. I'm praying every day. Because you come to realize at a certain point when you have no money, you think money is going to make you happy. And then you have money and you realize it doesn't make you happy. So you try to figure out what's going to make you happy. And ultimately, I don't really care about happiness much anymore. It's more about doing the things that need to get done and focusing on my loved ones. That in itself makes me happy. When I know that, people that I love are taken care of. And I know that, when I have kids one day, I could take care of them without thinking about it. And if they do want to go to college, it's done. And if my wife does want to go on a vacation, it's done. That in itself makes me happy because I know that I've I'm proud of myself as a man. I've taken care of the people that I want to take care of.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess this is kind of pivoting back, sort of to, going back to your younger self and everything, right? Um, if you were to kind of start over again, right? And you had to pick between sort of going into something, like as you said, you did some research and you kind of picked out something that you think you could have done good, right? Which ended up being wedding venues, right? Um,
Sure.
would you, work sort of towards your passion or more towards whatever has the highest ROI, right? I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, everyone has a different take on this, so.
It's a good question. I've been the one that focuses on the ROI. I'm not saying whether that's right or whether that's wrong. It's always been how I am as an entrepreneur. It's like, where's the money at? Because money is it's interesting. If you just kind of put yourself in the right position at the right time and you work hard, whatever vehicle you're in, like it really does matter. It does. A lot of people think it doesn't, but it does. Like if I put the same amount of effort that I did into building up a pizzeria that I did into building this current agency that I have, I would still be losing money right now at this point in my business. But I'm making consistent monthly profits and significant amounts because of the business vehicle that I chose.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, the business model that you go after is super important. What I say, don't go after private event venues. Honestly, no, because at this point, again, I'm willing to admit I'm still a new entrepreneur. If someone took my business away from me, I would just have to go after a new niche and build up a big audience because I don't know what else I would do. Like this is how I know how to make money. And it's a very specific skill. So if my business goes out of business, like let's just say I lose all the businesses I work with currently, I would need to get backing guys to build up a good product or service. And then I would have to get a sales team to sell it. Like that's what I would do to get myself back off the ground. Or I would have to go back to selling content or something to, keep my head above the water as an entrepreneur. But would I change what I went in on? No, I can't say that I would because I don't know at this stage what else I would do. Like it's so systematic now where the service is fairly easy to run. It's just about getting more clients and to scale my company. It's just a matter of looking at it on a company level and saying, who do I need to grow this thing and putting those people in place and making sure that they're compensated well. I wouldn't know what to do without this business. So, for example, I got watches behind me, but I would have to learn the watch business to create a watch trading business. I
Yeah.
would have to learn wholesale real estate to build a wholesale real estate business. Whereas, like, I already have the skills to build an agency. So why don't I just double down on what I already know how to fucking do?
Yeah, no. And I mean, this is another question sort of along the same lines, right? Now, I don't know if you've heard of the 100-hour rule, right? Basically, where you put 100 hours into something, you're better than, what is it, 95% of people that have done it, right? Do you think
Sure.
it's more important to build a skill stack where you can do video editing, you can do, you can write really well, you can do all these different skills and be better than 95% of people at them? Or do you think you want to be that top 1% in one skill? Like I mean, because obviously the time it takes, right? You're gonna spread out your efforts if you're doing the 100 hours, right? In a single skill, or dedicate yourself to one thing and get really good at that, right? Would that be like sales for you or
Oh, definitely sales for me. I mean, I've
mhm,
taken hundreds and hundreds of sales calls, and I've learned so much from them. But I would say go after that one thing.
mhm,
Because if you put all of your time and attention and focus into chasing one thing, it's gonna go so much further. That's why when my brother looked at me and he's like, "Yo, we got to get back into content," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm about to build a system." And in a week, I had that system put
yeah,
together.
yeah,
Like literally within 7 days, I had the whole system worked out, hired the editor, hired the videographer. Like I had everything worked out because I knew, listen, we're making X amount off the business. And Darrow's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna edit the videos. He's like, I have a little bit of time. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, you're gonna figure out how to get better service so that the clients can stay longer. Because if the clients stay longer, that's gonna have a better return on your time than editing videos.
mhm,
If I'm able to get a video editor that'll do 100 clips and 4 podcasts for $1,000, why the fuck would you do that? Right? That's not worth what you consider your hourly pay to be. So outsourcing is the way to the top, in my personal opinion. You need your own skills because at the end of the day, if there's no one, you're going to fall back on your own skills to make money. But no, I would say go after that one skill and then get really good and bring in other masters of their specific skill sets into the company, because that's what it is. It's a fucking company. I don't
Mm,
want someone that's my ad copy guy and my editor and my photographer because he's bottlenecked on his own time. I
yeah,
need media buyers, I need accounting, I need marketing, sales. It's the multiple areas of the business that we need. So I don't
yeah,
want kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I want a master of one that can provide me insane value. So I would say go
yeah.
after that one thing.
That's good value there. Sort of going back to, the personal brand, right? I mean, I know you say, you want to build it out, you want to get in front of as many audiences as possible, right? What's
Sure.
your kind of objective with it? Like, where would you kind of see it going in the long term?
I could see myself having a couple million followers on YouTube for sure. Because we have the system now where I know that I don't need to, I don't need to grind out the personal brand. I
Mhm.
just need to give it time, and I need to focus on creating the most entertaining content and
Mm,
curating it to the, to the right people, and, crafting it in a certain way so that's entertaining. And that's where having that system in place is going to allow us to have that. If you look at Mr. Beast, his whole production is impossible without tons and tons
tons
and
of
tons
people.
and tons of people. Tons of people. But guess what? In the beginning, who was it? It was just him. Just
Yeah.
like it was just like it was just me and my brother in the beginning. But I'm very much so of the mindset that's like, you know what? We all have 168 hours in a week. If I only have 168 hours in a week, I might as well spend out of those 168 hours that I'm, potentially going to work. I might as well spend the time doing things that are really hard to outsource. Like for me to get on a sales call with a company that's going to try to help me get more clients. Like I can't see anyone else other than me at this stage in business taking that call and hiring a business and paying them out of my business bank account. Like that's something that I want to do. But
Yeah.
making a cold call or running an ad, we got guys that do it. Or paying someone, we got guys that do it. But it's all about figuring out the things that you want to still be in control of and things that you still want to do and what you want to outsource, because that's how you build up the company. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could see the personal brand within the next couple of years being extremely big because I believe that I have a lot of value to provide. And I think that there's people that want to learn, and guess what? I still want to fucking learn. Like
Yeah.
I'm nowhere. I know it seems like I'm probably somewhere. I can promise you I'm nowhere. I've been around guys that have fleets of supercars, 100 cars deep. I have a pretty nice Infinity. I don't have a Ferrari yet. I'll just be honest. It's just the
Yeah.
point that I'm at. I probably could, but I'm not going to be a jackass and spend all my money. So that's just that's how I've approached it. I've met too many guys that came into a little bit of money at a young age and then they lose it all because they get greedy or they want to put
The
on a
next
certain
car.
act. It's
Yeah.
never going to be that way. I'm going to afford it when I can comfortably afford it. When I do another 20,000 a month in profit, that's when you'll see me with a Lamborghini. But
Yeah.
you're not going to see it, when I'm not at that point yet. So that's
So,
just how I am.
yeah, something that I really struggle with, and I don't know if this is something that, you struggle with. I don't know if it applies as much to you, but for me personally, I was kind of on this sort of like path of I want to try this, then I want to try this, then I try this, and I never really ended up like dedicating myself to something. Like for example, right, I got into e-commerce, then I did the NFT stuff. I was into that. Then now agency, right, SMMA. And that I've finally sort of dedicated myself to the agency and growing it, and then sort of doing the agency with the personal brand is kind of what I'm focused on right now. How do
Yeah.
you, sort of dedicate yourself to one thing? Because a lot of people, they really struggle with that, like, as you were saying before, right? The gurus, right? They're on the internet. I'll make $10,000 every month. This is how I do it. You know what I mean? And they're trying to show you, and it's hard to decipher what's a lie, what's truth, and who's just trying to sell you a course, who's actually trying to help you, right? Um, how what are some tips to kind of dedicate yourself to one thing?
I think that if you chase two rabbits for long enough, realizing that you caught none of them and you're still hungry, you start to realize, wait a second, I'm not actually getting anywhere.
Mm,
Where I have guys that approach me that are like, oh, we should go in on this real estate deal. And I'm like, all right, what are the returns going to look like? And he's like, oh, we have to put X amount of money up front, and it's going to take
Yeah.
this much time and this much maintenance fee. But then once it's up and running, the tenant's going to be, paying you out 1,500 a month. I'm like, 1,500 a month. I'm like, I just need to get one guy that makes one good cold call, and I'm gonna make 1,500 a month, and I don't have to deal with any of the headache. I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
second, this just doesn't make sense. I can put my money in Bitcoin, and I'm going to see $150,000 Bitcoin in a couple of years. I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm really focused on my time. You can't get me to do shit that I'm not fixing to do. And that's just how I am, because it's not worth the time. There's, people that try to get me, oh, you should partner on this business with me. Okay, what's it all about? I'm going to create a window washing business, and we're going to go around and we're going to, okay, what do I have to do? Oh, you have to be the salesperson. I'm not doing that. Like the returns are not going to be, and I learned that from Alex Hormozy, so sitting there listening to him speak, saying, when I had my dental agency and my chiro business and gym launch, when I shut all the other noise out and I just focused on the one thing, I had to humble myself in being the master of one and just being the CEO of one business and not a fucking million. And it's
Yeah.
like, yep, that's what I need to do. I need to learn from someone that's way above me, and I need to take that principle and I need to apply it. That's
Yeah.
what I did.
No.
That's
Yeah,
what I did.
that's sort of the reason I kind of have this podcast, is kind of get interesting people, like yourself, and ultimately like anyone who's had, some sort of business or something that they, value. I kind of want to bring them on to talk about what they do, right? Because it's really interesting to hear people's stories. And I'm always open to learning. I'm always open to hearing, because I never know, right? Like I'm 17 years old, right? I'm growing, just as much as anybody else, right? I want to learn everything that I can, right?
Sure.
So I mean, I think we've been on the call for quite a long time now. Is there
Yeah.
any, closing statements that you have for anyone watching this?
Yeah. If if you guys are thinking about starting a business, really do your homework before you dive deep, because you might create a headache that is going to take a decent amount of time to fix up. So make sure that it's at a stage in life where you're ready for it. You have enough time to actually work on it and get it off the ground. And if you're in a position right now to where you're lost like I was, you don't really know what you're doing, you're a little bit confused on what business model to go after or even what to do for the rest of your life, what kind of job you want to work, I promise, if you focus on it hard enough and if you put enough effort into figuring it out, eventually you're going to figure it out.
Hmm.
Because I'm not smarter than the majority of people. I just have a better mindset than the majority of people do. I'm not the best I'm not the best media buyer. I'm not the best salesperson. I'm not the best marketer. I'm not the most talented. I'm not the wisest. I don't have the most time in the market. But one thing that I can commend myself on is that I have a mindset that is, I'm not going to let other people spend more time on it than I am, because I know that if I stick in the market long enough, eventually it's going to reward me and I'm going to figure it the fuck out. So just work hard. That's really all I can tell you. If you're trying to make money, the economy is going to reward the people that work the hardest. And, a lot of you guys want to compensate, oh, work smart, work smart. You can't work smart until you work hard. It took me busting my ass for 90 hours a week to get agency clients to get money to fund my personal brand, or else that would be impossible. I'd still be sitting here with no personal brand because I don't have the time. But I'm able to work smart because I worked hard, but I'm still working hard as I'm working smart. So do both. And yeah, I commend you, Alex, for starting, young, kind of as I did. I think you're going to go very far as long as you stick with it.
Mhm.
Obviously, never give up. You're giving that message to everyone, live
Yeah.
by it, breathe by it. I could definitely tell that you do, which is great. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
that would be my closing advice. I wish everyone the best.
So thank you everyone for watching this edition of the Truth Talk podcast. If you guys found any value in this, feel free to first go subscribe to Luke Del Priore. I hope I said that right. All right, there it is. And you also can drop a like on this video and sub my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
Bye.